Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are starting a new kind of video. You know, if you've been watching these channel for a while, I like finding new types of videos that I can then turn into a bit of a series, doing multiple videos along the same lines, if, of course, that's what you guys want to watch. Today, we are going to take a card, Gyarados GX, from the upcoming Crimson Invasion expansion, and we're going to look at frankly stupid, silly, crazy, ridiculous things that we can do with that card. I am not trying to give you the most playable things here, although maybe it'll turn out to be playable, in which case, yay! My goal is to give you stuff that you can do which is a bit stupid and a bit dumb, but when it works, will be hilarious and will bring joy to your lives. And it's not actually long till Crimson Invasion comes out, so, you know, time to get excited. Ladies and gentlemen, Gyarados GX. I'm not going to go into great detail on Gyarados, because frankly, I did a video about Gyarados, I'll pop a link in the description. But it's got a massive 240 HP, which breaks Alolan Muck's record for HP on a Stage 1 GX. Weakness to Lightning is pretty good, because there aren't that many good Lightning Pokemon around at the moment. And Water double colourless 70 damage is fine. KO the Volcanion with a choice band, KOs the EX or Turtonator. And then Water and 4 colourless, 100 damage, but if there's a Stadium in play, 200 damage, discard the Stadium. It is Primal Groudon's Gaia Volcano. So, what can we do with Gyarados that's a bit stupid? Ladies and gentlemen, I have got two options for you. Option number one revolves around the Magikarp from Evolutions. Now, the Magikarp from Evolutions is not particularly good. For a single water energy, 10 damage times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. Well, you've only got 30 HP. So at the maximum, you're doing 20 damage here. That's not particularly good. Alright, you can pop a Fighting Fury mount on Magikarp, then you can take 6 damage counters and do 60 damage. It's still not good. Won't even KO a non-GX or baby Volcanion. No, ladies and gentlemen. Not a fan of this. And in fact, in Crimson Invasion, we are getting a really good Magikarp that has an ability that means it cannot be damaged by attacks when it's on your bench. But of course, just before we get Crimson Invasion, we are getting Shining Legends. And in Shining Legends, there is a Jirachi that allows your Pokemon to use attacks from their pre-evolutions, just like the Stadium card Shrine of Memories that just got rotated. Although, as a side note, if you're in the expanded format, you are, of course, welcome to use that Stadium Shrine of Memories instead of Celebi, because Celebi is a basic Pokemon, so it can have its ability turned off by Garbodor, or indeed by Alolan Muck. So, I'm hoping by now you're starting to put it together. I told you that Gyarados has a frankly ridiculous 240 HP. It is the largest HP we've got on a Stage 1 Pokemon. Alolan Muck broke the mold with 220. One set later, Gyarados breaks the mold again with 240. And it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to get a one-hit KO on a Gyarados. So let's say, for argument's sake, you only have 1 energy on a Gyarados. That means that Gardevoir is going to take 8 energy total, or 7 plus a choice band, to get a one-hit KO. You have 1 energy on there, that means they need 6 energy plus a choice band just to get a KO here. But of course, you can just wait and have 0 energy on Gyarados. And then actually, you're needing 8 energy, or 7 plus a choice band, as the Gardevoir player, to get a KO on Gyarados. And essentially, you use this like people used to use the damage change Mewtwo. Or like, for instance, a lot of Alolan Ninetales players use that in the early game. You just sit there, and if your opponent doesn't get a KO, you just copy Flail, and you can be doing a huge amount of damage. Essentially, you do as much damage to them as is currently on you. Or you can, for instance, use a choice band to do an extra 30, a Kukui to do an extra 20. If you really want to get ridiculous with this, and that is kind of the point of the video, how about bodybuilding dumbbells? Bodybuilding dumbbells will actually put you up to 280 HP. It is really difficult, ladies and gentlemen, incredibly difficult for most Pokemon to do 280 damage. I mean, if we take something like a Tapu Koko GX, for instance, they would need to have a choice band just to get a KO with sky-high claws. Do remember, of course, that if you're using bodybuilding dumbbells, your opponent can always use something like a field blower to get rid of it, which will, of course, ruin your day. But hey-ho, these things happen. Lightning decks are not big at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Now, your opponent can play around this by just being really careful about how much damage they do. But the fact is, most decks don't have a way to do this much damage. So, if we take something like Tapu Bulu Vikavolt, you're thinking Tapu Bulu, well, they can only do 210, they can't get a KO. That's using Nature's Judgment with a choice band and discarding. But actually, that would be a really bad example, because Vikavolt does 150 and can get a KO. But let's take something like an Alolan Ninetales deck. Alolan Ninetales can only do 190 with a choice band. Although they'd have to be a fairly bad player to do that, because if they do 190 with a choice band, you can then add a choice band yourself and do 220 and KO. But then again, what Alolan Ninetales will do is just use Ice Blade, hit you for 50, and then use Blizzard Edge with a choice band to put you up to 240 while you're only hitting for 50. You could mess up this maths a little bit using Max Potion. Problem is, the amount of damage you do depends on how much damage is on you. Most decks will have a way to play around this, but there's something amazing about a 280 HP Pokemon that if you don't KO will hit you back harder. Just remember that good players will generally be able to work around this by just poking you until you're in range and then doing the big attack. The other silly thing we can do with Gyarados GX is use Kiawe. And yes, I know, Kiawe is very much a fire Pokemon trainer. This is a water Pokemon. What are we doing? Well, the thing is, Kiawe doesn't say attach 4 fire energy from your deck to one of your fire Pokemon. It just says to one of your Pokemon. So what you can do here is use Kiawe to pay the fire energy cost of the second attack. I say fire, I mean colourless energy cost. So 1 basic water plus a Kiawe. And ladies and gentlemen, you've got all the energy you need to be doing Dragon Calamity for 200 damage. And here's the thing. If you can get this going in the early game, you may well win. Because the thing is, you're doing 200 damage. Now, you'll need to make sure that there's a stadium in play every turn. Might I suggest Brooklet Hill to grab your Magikarp? But you're then in a great position where you're just sitting there hitting for 200 damage every turn. 230 with a choice band. If you're willing to play around with Kukui here, you're nigh on unstoppable. 230 KOs Gardevoir. With a Kukui, 250 KOs a Metagross. 200 without adding any damage will get rid of a Tapu Bulu or a Tapu Lele. And while your opponent isn't getting a KO, you can be attaching double colourless energy to a benched Gyarados ready for the following turn. You only need to play 4 or 5 energy of the fire variety in this deck just to search them out with Kiawe. But I would go at least 5, because if your fire energy's prized, that's going to be difficult because you won't be able to grab it out of your deck. One of my issues here is, if you wait a turn to evolve up and then Kiawe, that's 2 turns where you're not attacking. You really need a turn 2 Gyarados here with all the energy. So that really means you have to Kiawe 4 energy onto a Magikarp. Good news is, like I've said, the Magikarp in Crimson Invasion is immune from bench attacks. Bad news is, your opponent can use a Guzma to KO it, and you lose all of the energy. What you could do, and this is a little bit awkward, but what you could potentially do here is put the 4 energy onto a big Pokemon like Tapu Lele, then Ninja Boy to a Magikarp, and then evolve to Gyarados, because the Magikarp will have been down for a turn, and then get going, but that's a little bit awkward, although it does remain an option. I don't know if this is viable. The Flail one's a bit silly, and I don't think it's viable. This Kiawe option I like, And let's be clear, if you can be hitting 200 every turn from turn 2 before your opponent's even set up, you'll probably win. You will need to set up a second Gyarados because something like a Gardevoir will be able to set up a Gardevoir on the bench to come and get the KO, because if you've got 5 energy on you, they'll need 8 in total, so they just need 2 energy and a choice band, or say a fairy double colourless, in order to get the KO. But if you're getting a KO on a Gardevoir, and then they're bringing up for the return KO, and you've got another Gyarados ready to go, this is going to work, ladies and gentlemen, in some games. Will it be truly viable? I'm not entirely sure, but it's got to be worth a go, ladies and gentlemen. It's gotta be worth a go. Now, let me know if these are the kind of videos you want to see in the future. Silly things that might work if everything goes right, but when they work will make you delighted. I'd like to do more of these videos. Let me know if you think they're worth doing. Make sure you drop down a like. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. You can follow me on Twitter at the Wassy and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. That's where the live action happens. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods, etc., you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.